and I am the editor, creator, and producer of what you're watching right now, Blade Talk. If you are new here, welcome, and you found this presentation helpful, informative, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. I always appreciate all the support that I am given. So, I wanted to do a question and answer session. There was one question in particular that I wanted to take special time to address because I think that it will help a lot of people. And if you're interested in knowing what that question is, stick around. Let's hit that intro and let's begin. All right, so the question was, what is it like to be black and be Jewish? I got another question that was similar to this, and I wanted to give it a proper response because I get this question a lot. Now, keep in mind, I can only speak from my own point of view, my own perspective. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My mother was in the Army. My father was in the Marine Corps. And there was very little tolerance for racism. After all, my grandmother was an Ashkenazi European Jew. So I was taught that good and evil comes in every shade. The expectations placed upon me were high from an early age. I'm the oldest of three, and my parents are military. What they instilled inside of me was the ability to think for myself. And growing up in a black community and visiting my grandmother in a Jewish community, one thing I learned was I was never good at playing follow the leader. Again, my parents instilled in me to think for yourself, be an individual. Now, when I joined the military myself at 17 years old, I traveled the country and went to many different synagogues, some Reform, some Chabad. I went to many different synagogues, and I would notice the stares that I got, and especially in the Orthodox community, and it gave me a bit of anxiety until I finally just asked, why all the stares? Is this a racist thing? Is it because I'm black? Typically, I was the only black person in the congregation. But then you come to find out that people were just on high alert because anti-Semitism is a real thing. We live in an era where, unfortunately, churches are being attacked, synagogues are being attacked. So when someone comes in and no one knows who you are, it could lead people to kind of raise their antennas a bit, but it has nothing to do with me being black. The Jewish community welcomed me with open arms. And I found the most welcoming and engaging people in the Jewish community. again, once they've warmed up to you and they know that you're sincere, you're not there to, cause any mischief. And unfortunately, I've seen it firsthand where you get some people come into synagogue and they want to preach Jesus. You get others that want to, attack the doctrine of Judaism and whatnot. So again, it had nothing to do with my skin complexion. I think most Jews know that even in Israel, 70% of the population are people of color. Many are Middle Eastern or North African descent. So many Jews recognize that Jews come in all different shades, sizes, philosophies, etc. When you move over to the Black community, this is when I felt the most out of place. Because in the Black community, many have succumbed to conspiracy theories. From my own perspective, many believe that we are victims. We have this trauma bragging that we do. We want to push a narrative of racism and the system and whatnot. So I found more conflict with the Black community. It was a struggle to gain acceptance in the Black community as opposed to the Jewish community. The Jewish community, there is a sect, there's the Orthodox movement, which will say that, well, you're not really Jewish, and because you're not doing Jewish the way that I'm doing Jewish. So there are some in the Jewish community that want Judaism to be a monolith. Similarly, there are some in the Black community that want Black people to be a part of a monolith. And I've always, again, from the time that I was a little boy being raised, I always pushed against that. I don't believe in being one thing. Whether you're Black, whether you're Asian, whether you're Native American, you have your own individual beliefs. But many in the Black community want everyone to think alike. Many want everyone to move as one. But that's impossible because not every Black person has the same perspective. Not every Black person has the same upbringing. We are diverse in our way of thinking. But if you go against the narrative or the agenda that most of the Black community pushes, then you're labeled all kind of derogatory names, Uncle Toms, Coons, etc. So I struggled with that. I really did. And I think that racism, the word, has lost its power in a lot of ways because it's been so overused. In the Black community, and again, this is only my personal experience, people are being labeled racist just because they happen to be white and have a differing opinion. Me personally, I'm very cautious when I use that word because I don't want to insult my ancestors. I don't want to insult my grandparents, my great-grandparents that really did experience racism. When you have dogs being, ordered to attack you, when you have water hose, with all that high pressure water, ripping skin off, when you have so many of the things under Jim Crow and getting kicked out of establishments and whatnot. So I'm very cautious when I use that word. And again, I feel like it's lost a lot of its power. And the reason is because I think that there's semantic overload. And what I mean by that is people are getting caught up in generalizations. And I think that what can help is if we come up with definitions or get specific about what we're talking about. For example, Black Lives Matter. Some people interpret that as all we're saying is Black people's lives are just as important as white lives, Hispanic lives, etc. And on that, I agree. It should be common sense, right? But other people will hear that word and believe that Black Lives Matter means that we should destroy a system that only benefits white people. And that I am against. My thing is if you show me a law that prevents you as a Black person from achieving what you want to achieve in life, there's an actual law, I will stand by your side and we can fight it together. What I'm not going to succumb to is ghost hunting, meaning the system, there's systematic racism. Well, what system and what law? And like I said, I'll fight it with you. Well, there's white privilege. I think that some people are born with better opportunities or privileges than others. I do believe that, but I don't believe that equates to a racial issue. I don't immediately default to it being a racial problem. There must be some kind of racial disparity for the reason that Black people aren't getting ahead and whatnot. That I don't believe. Some people are born in America. I would say you're privileged. Some people are born with 2 parents in the household. I'd say you're privileged. Some people are born with a stability in who they are, their culture, their identity. I'd say that's a privilege. And as a religious Jew, I am taught not to covet other people's things. So it's not even in my belief system to want what someone else has. I appreciate the fact that you have it, and I'm happy for you. But I'm so in my own lane that it doesn't bother me. But it bothers others. And for me, I struggle because I'm an independent thinker. Again, I don't play follow the leader. And I'm not going to, follow narratives or agendas that I don't believe in. And you're not going to bully me into believing it just because you're Jewish, just because you're black. I'm an individual, and that's how I want to be seen. You know, there are people who I have deemed window people and mirror people. And I'll explain what I mean. If someone doesn't get a promotion, or their business doesn't take off, or they don't get the woman that they want, or they don't get the man that they want, there are some that are mirror people. They will walk up to a mirror and they will say, introspectively, what can I do better? What can I fix? How can I get stronger? How can I get this to motivate me to want to do more the next time? Those are mirror people. Then you have window people, in which case something goes wrong. They don't get the promotion, business doesn't take off, they don't get the man or the woman that they want. They go past the mirror and they go to the window. And their whole premise is something out there, something outside of this window is preventing me from achieving what I want to achieve. It's never specific, but something out there is the cause of my failure. And I go back and always reference the Cain and Abel story in the Torah. Cain committed the first murder in human history that we know of. He murdered his own brother. And Cain is also the first person in human history to acknowledge the sin, acknowledge that he messed up. And the whole premise of the story is God accepts Abel's offering and not Cain's. And rather than Cain, again, being a mirror person and saying, okay, my offering wasn't accepted. What can I do better next time? What can I improve on and look inward? Instead, Cain, full of anger and envy, it consumes him and he murders his brother. I don't want to be that way. I don't covet other people's things. I don't want other people's lives. I don't want what they have. I'm so focused on my life. And for all the talk of, black people have it hard, and in some cases, it's been true our own history says that it's been true. But there's also a part of me that likes that, because nothing worth having comes easy. And in the black community, I just wish that there was more diversity. Not everybody wants to dribble a basketball or play football or be a rapper. We also need pilots, engineers, we need surgeons, we need carpenters, we need plumbers, we need mechanics. But sadly, from my experience, education is frowned upon in the black community. You're quick to get labeled a nerd. And I think that that's a mistake. I think in the black community, we should take a look at ourselves. What can we do better? As opposed to the white man this. Again, I think specifics and definition. Which white man are you talking about? The British, the Scottish, the Irish, the Italians, the Dutch? Be specific. And I've found the more specific you are, the more the conspiracy falls apart. Because you come to find out that you're just chasing ghosts. The system is rigged against black people. What system? Show me. And when you pull up the actual statistics of what they're talking about, a lot of times it disproves their whole narrative, and they don't have the supporting arguments, and that's when the insults start. Again, education is frowned upon. So there's this narrative or an agenda that's being pushed that white cops are killing unarmed black men at an alarming rate. But then you pull up the statistics and you find out that's not actually true. I, as a black man, am more likely to get killed by another black person. But again, once you mention that we need to hold ourselves accountable for the environment and our culture, we need to change things within ourselves, it doesn't fit the narrative. The narrative is we need to blame someone else for our issues. I don't like the trauma bragging, and I don't do the victim mentality. Because in every culture, you can trace back to some kind of slavery, some kind of mistreatment, injustice, etc. That exists in ever since human beings set foot on the earth. We've been at war with one another over resources. That's the way that it's always been. So I don't buy into it. I mean, if we go back far enough in the black community, even in Africa, you had tribes going at other tribes. Why do you think when the Europeans came, the colonizers came and took us and brought us to America, not one African country declared war on the United States of America? Because it was tribal warfare. You're eliminating competition. So why would you? But there's this push to make it seem like black people are a monolith, the same way that there's a push that, well, Jewish people are a monolith. We're not. Everyone is an individual, and I urge people to think. You don't have to think the way that I do, just think. It ain't illegal yet, but they're working on it. Through social media, through AI, through the news outlets, they're working on it. They're trying to control your mind and how you think. And if you go against the grain, if you go against the narrative or the agenda, notice how everyone that is following that agenda turns on you. They have to in order to make themselves look good. So I, as a black person, supported Trump. And I can't tell you how many so-called friends and family members don't talk to me anymore because of it. And that's sad. Again, you don't have to agree with what I feel or my political beliefs, but it shouldn't ruin our friendship or family ties. I always encourage people to vote your own interest. I got called so many names just for believing differently. But it doesn't stop me from doing so. Even on the Jewish side, leaving orthodoxy. And many Orthodox believes that if you're not doing Jewish the way that the Orthodox are doing Jewish, then you're not really Jewish. Again, I don't believe that we are a monolith on the Jewish side nor the black side. There should be different ways to be Jewish, different ways to be black, because there are different perspectives. And so what'll happen is people will bring up your ancestors, well, what would your great grandparents think? Your ancestors were slaves and your ancestors this, that, and the third. I appreciate my ancestors and the sacrifices that they made, but I don't idolize them. That's one thing that I do not do. I don't want to be like my ancestors. They were brilliant for the times that they lived in. But today, we have more information. We have more technology. We have more resources available to us. So I'm not interested on the Jewish side being like my Jewish ancestors, because they struggled with idol worship, which essentially caused us to be exiled. And they were turning on each other. There was a whole civil war. Then on the black side, when we were in Africa, the tribal warfare. And it wasn't pretty. I don't want to be like that. I want to be better. Every parent should want better for their children. Every parent should want their children to be better than who they are, to be wiser, to be smarter. If I am resurrected and I'm blessed enough to see 5, 6 generations down the line into the future, I'm going to be pretty upset if they're still stuck in 2025. You are to take the knowledge or whatever wisdom that you can apply and add to it through each generation in order to push that level of knowledge. You should want it to advance. Black people are 13% of the American population, but we make up over 50% of the crime. Now, some may say that, well, that's the white man. That's the system. But as I said, before we look out a window, can we look in the mirror? But anytime you say that, it doesn't fit the narrative. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to be an individual. I'm a black man. I'm a Jewish man. I am an individual with individual thoughts. I have my own perspective. I have my own way of seeing the world. And I'm not going to compromise that for anyone. So I quickly learned that there is a price to be paid for being an independent thinker. You're most likely an outcast. I remember joining the military at 17 years old, and many of my black friends at the time said, "Why would you join the white man's military?" When I came back and became an observant Jew, why are you embracing that white man's religion? It's just dumb. It's closed-mindedness. That's why I love my individuality. I won't allow people to put me in a box. Because you're black, you have to like this, this, this. Because you're Jewish, you have to do Jewish this way, that way. No. I think that you have your own unique perspective, and you build on that. So, being Jewish and being black, again, I caught it worse from the black side as opposed to the Jewish side. I left Orthodoxy, and many were just saying that you abandon the authentic way of doing Jewish. Then I became more observant as a conservative Jew. And the people in the black community told me that I would abandon my entire race. I was a traitor to my race. But in the end, you do the best you can and you carry on, and you don't let anybody deter you, even if it's your own people. They can't see your vision. It's not for them. So you keep going and you protect your dream. You protect your ideas. The imagination is a preview of life's coming attractions. Just stay the course. And you'll lose people on the way. But not everybody is destined to be with you for the long haul. Your destiny is not tied to anyone. And you have to come to grips with that. There are people that come into your life sometimes that were only meant to be there for a season. They weren't meant to be there always. Sometimes we find ourselves hooked up with people that we think are there for a lifetime, but they were only supposed to be there for a season. There are people that come into your life sometimes that are like boosters on a rocket. If you ever watch a rocket go into space, the boosters fall off when it reaches a certain altitude. Some people are not equipped to handle the altitudes that you're going to. So don't get mad or upset when they fall off. They're not bad people. They just couldn't go where you're going. They can't see your vision that you have. So no, I'm not interested in thinking alike as a black person. I'm not interested in thinking alike in the Jewish community. I think the diversity of opinions are a good thing. If we can exchange and dialogue, I think that's what makes us better. That's what makes us stronger. That's what makes us wiser. The ability to hear another perspective and be open-minded enough to see where another person is coming from. Not every black person was raised in the hood. Not every black person had it hard. And not every Jewish person wants to interpret Jewish law the way that the Orthodox do. That's why I said I've always had a little bit more admiration for Reform and conservative Jews because they carry the Torah in their heart. It's with them. The Jews in the ancient world felt that in the desert they were being led by the clouds of glory. God had covered the Jewish nation in this spiritual incubator, and they were surrounded by clouds. And there were a group of Jews that felt that because we have the clouds of glory, we can do anything. And so some Jews decided to try to take the promised land by force, and they ended up failing miserably. Then you fast forward, and there's the temple. And there are some Jews in the ancient world that felt that as long as the temple stands, we can overcome any adversary. Prophet Jeremiah tried to tell those Jews that no, do not go over there and try to battle Babylon. They didn't listen. They went and battled Babylon, and the Babylonians not only destroyed them, but destroyed the entire temple. My point is I think God has a way of removing things that get in the way of the Jewish nation and God himself. God had stated that he is a jealous God. He will have no other gods before him. So the reason that I have admiration for Reform and conservative Jews is because, again, they carry the Torah with them wherever they go. In the Orthodox world, they're really bound to their community. But what happens when something happens to the community? What happens when you take an Orthodox Jew out of their environment and place them in the secular society? What happens to their Judaism? So it becomes very dependent on the community. It becomes very dependent upon the environment. Whereas Reform and Conservative, typically, you're not in a Jewish community, but you figure out a way to make sure that you embrace your Judaism. I admire that. Being black and being Jewish hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it. Anything worth having in this life won't come easy. But there's a price that you pay for thinking and being a free thinker, especially if you're going against the narrative. There is, I believe, a group of individuals that want a race war. There's a group of people that benefit off of racism because there's money to be made in it. And the black community are very emotional. And people prey on that emotion. We have trauma, psychological trauma from what our grandparents went through. And you have people that exploit that trauma. That's why you see the videos on social media. And then you have the Democrats, politicians come in, and what they tell black people is, I know what you're going through. I empathize. I've been where you are. They can't tell you how much a loaf of bread costs at the grocery store. But they will come and sell you this empathy. I know what you're going through and I can fix it. But I need more power. And that's how they get your vote. I hate that tactic. I think that diverse opinions are a good thing and they shouldn't be attacked. Debate, dialogue, open conversations. That's how we learn. That's how we move forward. And that's just my personal opinion and my personal perspective on being black and being Jewish. Be an individual and have your own individual thoughts. And don't let anyone bully you into abandoning them. Don't let anyone project their feelings and their emotions onto you. And I was a cop in the military. So anytime someone shows me, look, this white person is arresting this black guy and the black guy didn't do anything wrong. And again, they're trying to push this narrative, this agenda. And I don't go for it. No, tell me what the police statement said. What did the witness statement say? Show the whole thing, not just a snippet that advances your narrative or your preconceived notions. Don't edit the video. Don't cut it so that you can't see the whole thing. And they count on again, black people losing control of their emotions and not thinking logically. There has never been a better time to be black in America, ever, than right now. The 90s, gang violence was at an all-time high. The 80s, there was a drug epidemic. The 70s, they came and took many programs out of schools. The 60s, we all know the Jim Crow laws. Now, I'm not saying everything is perfect. It's just that now we have more opportunities, better resources. No society is perfect. But I'm not going to sit here and play the victim. I'm a black man and I'm Jewish, but I'm also a free thinker. And because of that, because I want to see the evidence, the statistics, I'm a threat. And that's the truth of the matter. That being said, think. It ain't illegal yet, but they're working on it. You all take care.